Fine. So right now there are 3 students only. So with this, let me again start our today's class. Right. So what I have been thinking for the last couple of days is uh, we have studied quite a lot. ঠিক আছে সঞ্জয় শুনতে পাচ্ছো? হ্যাঁ. Now you can mute yourself now. Stop your video and mute yourself. So you will be
হ্যাঁ
only
শুনতে
able to
পাচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ mute করে দাও. So I have been thinking for a couple of days that we have been studying quite a lot of stuff. So let me quickly do a summary or recap of what we have been doing starting from the very first lecture. Probably 5 to 6 lectures we had blackboard when we have those lectures in our classroom of department. So I'm just going to briefly summarize what we have done till now. So for that, for the summary, what you can do is you can go into আমি এবার share করছি, okay? What I am going to do is I am sharing the website. You see, if you want to know about the details of the course, the best way is to go into my Google pages, which is here. তোমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছ তো? I think so. And from there you go, from go to the teaching section, and here you have the particle physics, and when you click that, then you will find this. Okay, fine. And so এবার দেখো, here what you will find is this thing. Yeah, এইখানে I have summarized what we have done. You see, the first part of our lecture we started with this thing, basic quantum field theory and quantum electrodynamics. Okay, I think you all remember this thing. And আমরা যেটা আরম্ভ করেছিলাম was we started with the single particle non-relativistic quantum mechanics, and we basically discussed about the various drawbacks, and I talked about a lot of various possibilities. For example, our non-relativistic single particle quantum mechanics cannot deal with the decay stuff, even other scenarios, and then causality violation I also discussed with you. After that, we talked about one of the remedies of the problem. Now, one of the possibilities is to use the concept of field, which is here, the concept of field. And then we talked about that field is everywhere, all space and time included, and the particle is an excitation of the field. We talked about these ideas, and then we also discussed about the relation between particle and field. And the simplest field we talked about was the classical field theory, followed by its quantum counterpart, the quantum field theory. After that, কি করে we will start discussing about the quantum field theory. What we did was we talked about, now there are several ways of talking about the quantum field theory, right? How to incorporate the quantum field theory, or how to start. One is the Hamiltonian technique, and another is your Lagrangian technique. Now what we did here, we used the Lagrangian principle or Lagrangian field theory concept we used, and there I talked about the various possible Lagrangians, very simple ones: scalar particles, then scalar fields, then complex fields, and then we talked about the, you see, various types of relativistic fields: scalar, spin half, and vector. And then we also talked about the most interesting and important, the global and local U1 gauge transformations. Okay, তারপরে we also discussed the scenario for the gauge boson, যেটা ওর gauge হবে, say for example for the case of electromagnetic field, why photon is massless. We discussed those things. Afterwards, we talked about the interaction between photon and electron, and we talked about the quantum electrodynamics Lagrangian. I showed to you how you can write the quantum electrodynamics Lagrangian starting from the U1 local gauge invariance. I think you remember that we have to redefine the derivative for this case. Next, a little bit simpler or somewhat not included previously in our syllabus, I talked about even more basic ideas of the quantum electrodynamics. I talked about renormalization and what do you mean by the running coupling constant, those things. Afterwards, we started with the symmetry ideas and quark model. Basically, we are trying to understand the structure, right? The structure of the elementary particles, and then if we try to understand that, we can see that if we plot the elementary particles according to strangeness or isospin quantum number, then we get some weird configurations for them. And then when we try to understand why these elementary particles are arranged in some very different weird patterns, then we find that there is a very basic symmetry principle involved, and for that we studied the SU3 group symmetry. SU3 group. Now, as you can see, along with that we also discussed about the history of elementary particles. Thereafter, as I was mentioning, we talked about the eightfold way and super multiplets. আমি কিন্তু বোর্ডেও এগুলো সব করিয়েছি ক্লাসরুমে. I already discussed these things and how from the various plots from the masses of the elementary particles, if you consider them to be UUD or UDS type, how you can interpret the mass of the S quark from that. I have already discussed these things in the class. So after that we talked about how to explain them in the framework of our quark model, and we framed the rules for the quark model, and then we talked about the composition of baryon octet and decuplet, followed by the very interesting discussion on the excitation of hadron. That means what we did was, you see, for atoms and nuclei, the excited level energy is very small compared to the ground state energy, but for the case of elementary particles, the excited states are so far apart compared to the ground state that we call each excited state a different elementary particle. This was a very unique idea. Next, I talked about the various symmetry concepts. I talked about Noether theorem as well, and then we talked about the very interesting isospin symmetry between the proton and the neutron. And next we talked about the reason for this isospin symmetry, which was basically the near same or degeneracy of the U and D quark, right? The masses were quite roughly the same, and so the primary reason for isospin symmetry was basically the flavor symmetry between the U and D quarks. Next, what we did, I talked about the mathematics of the SU3 symmetry group, and afterwards I think in the last two online classes I talked about them. I talked about how you can use the same spin half algebra. You can use the same ideas to isospin algebra and afterwards to flavor algebra, right? And so using the isospin algebra, we did construct the flavor wave functions of baryons in the UD sector. Afterwards, after constructing the flavor wave function, we went forward to construct the wave function for the case of spin states, right, for the three quark system. And then we incorporated these two concepts together, and we got the ground state baryon wave function in the UD sector, and I wrote down explicitly the spin flavor state functions of delta minus and the proton plus, also neutron minus, delta up, or delta down, proton down, or neutron down, spin down. Basically, এদের wave functions গুলো পুরো spin flavor, we discussed them. Fine. Also, we talked about the isospin representation of the antiquarks and the construction of flavor wave function of mesons in the UD sector. These were done in the last class. I think you all remember that. Now, along with that, I have already discussed somewhat the SU3 flavor symmetry and the flavor states, and in the last class I am concentrating mainly on the construction of meson flavor states in the UDS sector using quark antiquark representations in YI3 plot. This you will find both in the PDF as well as the presentation which has given to you, whereas the same for the baryon flavor states you will find in the presentation. Okay, so far these are the things which have been covered in our syllabus. Okay, so any questions? Now you can unmute yourself. বলো। তোমরা ভিডিওটা অন করে দিতে পারো। Turn on your audio and video as well. Okay, I can see you, also hear you. Yes, বলো।
স্যার বলছি আজকে যে কোশ্চেনের সেটটা পাঠিয়েছিলেন ওখান থেকে একটু আলোচনা করলে ভালো হতো জিনিসটা।
Nice. Okay, let us then discuss about that. So let me again share the question. Where is that? This one. Yeah. Okay. So you see, I have given to you this question bank. So this is the very first question bank of our course, right? There will be soon more question banks you can expect. দেখো প্রথম জিনিস যেটা হচ্ছে, the first question is you have to arrange the members of the, now first thing, this question bank is only based on the lectures of the quark model that I have discussed. I have not given to you any questions on the quantum electrodynamics part. Again আমি ওটাকে আরো কিছুটা cover up করে I will give you the second question bank later on. So let me first discuss about it. The first question is to arrange the members of the decoupled baryons as per their I, Y3 and S quantum numbers and assign the right quark constituent to each of them. Remember this? আমি এটা ক্লাসে করিয়েছিলাম. Any questions or any issues? Okay, so this was done in the class entirely. The next question is, what do you mean by flavor symmetry? এটাও দেখবে আমার PDF এ আছে. So basically isospin symmetry, that is between proton and neutron, and when you even go into more simpler terms, this is because of the UD symmetry, right? UD mass symmetry, that is the flavor symmetry. You can find it in the PDF. Okay, next one is discuss about the SU3 symmetry group. Again I have discussed to you this thing in the class. ক্লাসে খাতায় ওটা স্যার কোনটা লিখতে হবে? এটা হচ্ছে ওই তোমার অঙ্কটা যেটা বলেছিলাম যে সিমেট্রি কি হয়, তারপরে SU3 সিমেট্রি ওই 9টা ম্যাট্রিক্স ছিল, ল্যামডা ম্যাট্রিক্সেস, কিভাবে জেনারেটর কি হচ্ছে না হচ্ছে. You remember these things, right? I've already talked about these things. And question number 4 was a homework. Have you found out what is the meaning of the algebra? এটা তোমাদের করার কথা ছিল. রাজেশ, সঞ্জয়, আদিত্য শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
স্যার করা হয়নি এটা তো স্যার।
এটা একটু
হ্যালো
পড়বে,
স্যার,
এটা পড়তে হবে, ইউ হ্যাভ টু ফাইন্ড
করা
ইট,
হয়নি।
আই এম ওয়েটিং ফর দ্য অ্যান্সার। এটা আমি আজকে বলবো না। নেক্সট কোয়েশ্চেন হচ্ছে, ইউ সি কনস্ট্রাক্ট দ্য ফ্লেভার স্পিন স্টেট ফাংশন of delta plus down and n plus up. This you can easily find in the lecture notes. You see this part here. আমি again share করছি, again share. I am going to share the same. You see, yeah. এই জায়গায় দেখো, এই যে proton wave function এখানে আছে. This part is over here. Again I have written to you in more explicitly in this part here. এইখানে কিন্তু পুরো প্রোটনেরটা আছে. Similarly you can swap UD and again the spin and get the neutron up. Fine. For the case of, দেখো এখানে ডেল্টা প্লাসও আছে, here you will find the same. দেখতে পাচ্ছ সবাই? দেখো এখানে delta plus spin down. How to do that? You have to use both symmetric states and you can find the result. I have shown this in the PDF. You can get it from there. Okay?
স্যার কি বললেন শুনতে পেলাম না স্যার, কেটে গেল।
আমি বলছি এগুলো আমি,
হ্যালো স্যার, হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ হ্যালো, আমি এটা PDF এ দেখিয়ে
স্যার,
দিয়েছি।
কেটে গেল স্যার।
শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
হ্যাঁ স্যার শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ আমি বলছি এগুলো আমি PDF এ সব দেখিয়ে দিয়েছি। নেক্সট কোয়েশ্চেন হচ্ছে, কনস্ট্রাক্ট দ্য flavor state of the isospin triplet pi plus pi 0 pi minus in the UD sector. ইন্টারেস্টিংলি দেখো এখানে আমি বলেছি you have to verify this construction with the help of isospin step up operator being operated between pi 0 and pi plus. Now এইটা দুই জায়গায় করা আছে, আমি দেখাচ্ছি তোমাদেরকে। The first thing is you find in the notes. এই নোটসের ভেতরে দেখো আছে, এই প্রোটনের আগে আছে এটা, এই যে এই জায়গায়, এই এখানে দেখো এই জায়গায়, এই যে this place isospin flavor symmetry, this part combining quarks. ওকে, এই জায়গায় কিছুটা আছে, এইখানে আমি বলছি একটু নিজেরা খুঁজে তোমাদেরকে বার করতে হবে পুরো জায়গাটা। আরেকটা হচ্ছে তোমাকে বলি, সেটা হলো তোমার দেখাচ্ছি, দাঁড়াও, আরেকটা হচ্ছে এইখানে, ইয়েস ইন দিস পার্ট হিয়ার, এই যে ল্যাডার অপারেটরগুলো ছিল এই জায়গাটা, কম্বাইনিং কোয়ার্কস ওই জায়গাটাতে। নেক্সট এইখানে দিস প্লেস, ইউইউডি ট্রিপল সিস্টেমের আগের সিনারিওটা, হিয়ার ইউ উইল ফাইন্ড দোজ থিংস, পাই প্লাস পাই 0 পাই মাইনাস, দিস থিংস আর হেয়ার। এইখানে দেখো ল্যাডার অপারেটর দিয়ে পুরোটা করে দেওয়া হয়েছে, দিস থিং। এটা একটু খাতায় নিজেরা করে দেখতে হবে। এইটা তো হচ্ছে পরের পার্টটা, প্রোটন বা নিউট্রনের পার্টটা। ওকে, নেক্সট কোয়েশ্চেন অর ফাইনাল কোয়েশ্চেন, সেটা where is that? Yeah, here. You see, the final question is, with the help of yi3 plot of the UDS quark and the UDS antiquark, obtain the flavor state function of the meson nonet. এটা মনে পড়ছে কোথায় আছে? দেখো এটা তোমরা এগেন ওই পাওয়ার পয়েন্টটা খোলো, পাওয়ার পয়েন্টে দেখো লাস্টের দিকে চলে যাও, লাস্টের দিকে দেখো এই যে মেজন ননেট, এই জায়গাটা 3x3, মানে দুটোকে এবার আমি we are trying to see the whatever possible structures are there for the case of light mesons. Okay, so 3 into 3 9 meson nonet, ওইখান থেকে you will find this is equal to 8 plus 1 singlet and octet, this thing. So this 3 direct product 3 equal to 8 direct sum 1, this thing, and the algebra is entirely written here, this part. You have to show both using ladder operator as well as the diagrams for this problem or for this question. This part. এটার আগে. This part. Any questions?